All right, he's back with us. He's the host of CRTV's Levin TV, the host of Life, Liberty, Levin, the #1 show, Sunday nights, 10 Eastern, right here on Fox. I call him the Great One, Mark Levin. So I said at the beginning of the show, we have now witnessed the single worst 24 hours in the history of the mainstream media, which is saying a lot because we know how corrupt they are. Reaction.
Well, you know, Sean, what we've learned about the media, several of the hosts and guests, is we have a lot of psychopaths out there, that's for sure.
Okay, how do you really feel?
Well, comparing the president's conference with Putin to Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Kristallnacht, the beginning of the Holocaust, calling him a traitor and treasonous. You know, 2 weeks ago, they said he was running Japanese internment camps and Nazi concentration camps. This is the pseudo-media. And now it comes to Russia. Now the liberals, the media, the Democrats, some Republicans, very upset about Russia. You know, they've had more positions on Russia than Stormy Daniels, as far as I'm concerned. And let me point out some history. This is very, very important. John McCain, God bless him, and others have said that what Trump did at that press conference is the worst interaction we've ever had with Russia, the worst diplomatic disaster ever. I want the American people, forget about the media, I want you to know something. In 1945, at the Yalta Conference, Franklin Roosevelt sold out half of Europe to Stalin. He repeatedly praised Stalin. Franklin Roosevelt is the hero of the Democrat Party. He of Japanese internment camps, too. In Yalta, he gave up half of Europe to the Soviet Union. In 1961, JFK met with Khrushchev. JFK told a friend of his that he was rolled over, that he came across weak, that it was pretty disastrous, his meeting with Khrushchev. And a few weeks later, what do? The Soviets are shipping missiles to Cuba, and they're building a wall in Berlin. In 1975, Gerald Ford in Helsinki with Brezhnev, 35 other countries, recognized the territorial sovereignty of the Soviet Union, which included the captive nations of Eastern Europe. In 1979, Jimmy Carter placed a big wet kiss on Brezhnev's cheek in Vienna. All this hysteria about this press conference. The president said, look, I could have said it better, I should have said this, and they act like it's the apocalypse. It's not. The left in this country has defended the Rosenbergs, they defended Alger Hiss, they defended Ted Kennedy in 1983 and 4 when he was colluding with the Kremlin to defeat Reagan. The left, the Democrats, the media in this country opposed SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, which had as its purpose to defend us against Russian nuclear missiles. They called it Star Wars. To this day, the left won't fund it. To this day, the Democrat Party opposes it. They opposed his Pershing II missiles to modernize medium-range nuclear missiles, which he eventually put in Europe, again to defeat the Soviet Union. So the left goes back and forth, the Democrats. If, in fact, Donald Trump had turned to Putin after a 2-hour private meeting, after setting up this summit, and all of a sudden in public turns to Putin and says, look, you little bastard, we know you interfered in our election, they would be attacking Trump today. The way that Trump turned to the Germans and NATO and said, hey, you're buying 70% of your natural gas from the Ruskies, you're funding their war machine, and then you ask us to subsidize you? The media and the Democrats and the same people went nuts. But some more facts. Obama's president. Obama did nothing effective at all to stop the Russians' interference in our election. He's the one who ought to be under investigation. No pushback for the invasion of Georgia. No pushback for the annexation of Crimea. No pushback for the invasion of eastern Ukraine. No pushback from Russia's criminal shoot-down of flight MH17. He capitulated to Russia in Syria, the unmet red lines, his betrayal of Poland and the Czech Republic by acceding to Russia's demand to remove U.S. missile defense systems there. He betrayed the Ukraine by refusing to provide them with defensive weapons. Now, contrast that disaster, that utter appeasement, to what Trump has done in 18 months. He's expanded sanctions on Russian companies and apparatchiks. He's expanded and beefed up NATO. He's had a massive increase in U.S. defense spending, no thanks to the liberals, restoring missile defenses to Poland and the Czech Republic, returning heavy armored divisions to Germany, pre-positioning armed brigades in the Baltics, ending arms embargoes on Ukraine and Georgia that Obama imposed on victims of Russian aggression, ending the ban of oil exports to try and compete with the Russians when it comes to their oil. And I could go on and on and on this. These are notes I had typed out on this. So all this hysteria, the fact of the matter is Trump hasn't done a thing to harm America with respect to Russia, and Obama did nothing to protect America when it came to Russia. The same attitude Obama had when it came to the Chinese in the South China Sea building their phony islands, the North Koreans as they're building their nukes, the Iranians, he gave them $150 billion and a wet kiss on the lips. So the attacks on Trump, this overwrought, hysterical, insane attack by the media, the Democrats, some in the Republican Party, and some phony conservatives. It's okay.
Let me ask you this.
You're allowed to question a president. Just don't go nuts.
No, they can't help themselves because their narrative, look, you can't see this without seeing it through the prism of 2018. It's now because they can't run on the economy anymore. They're telling Maxine and others to be quiet about impeaching. They want open borders. They want Obamacare. They want their crumbs back. And now they're kind of desperate because the Mueller investigation hasn't brought them what they wanted in 18 months. But we have had Russia collusion, and as much as Russian lies were paid for and disseminated to the American people about Donald Trump in a presidential election, and they were used to get a warrant in a presidential election against the Trump campaign. That seems to me like a pretty important factor that they don't report on, Mark.
Bottom line is, two entities interfered in our election, the Russians and the Obama administration. The Democrats defend the Obama administration, and all of a sudden they don't like the Russians, who they've been kowtowing to since
Bingo.
1917.
Yeah, you know what? That's why we call you the Great One. We will see Mark on Sunday night. Life, Liberty, Levin, 10 p.m. #1 show on cable at 10 p.m. right here on the Fox News Channel. All right, when we come back, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Dan Bongino, and the other news of the day. Don't touch that television dial. We need you.